Hey, welcome to another episode from I'm Chasing Sawdust. So it's been a busy day around here today trying to get logs shipped in. Got the skid steer stuck in the backyard. Got a giant sassafras out on the sawmill, which posted a little video earlier. I just got started with it, but I'm hoping to get into the sassafras trees over the next couple days, see the color in some of the healthier parts of that. But anyway, I just had a lady contact me. She needs trellis, needs it by tomorrow, and I'm not going to be around, so I'm going to bang these out real quick. I figured I'd take you guys along, show you how I do them. I got to get a couple of them like this, and then a couple that are just rectangular. If you make trellis, the rectangular ones, they're not only better for the plants to grow on, they also sell better. Some people like these just for the aesthetics of them, the looks of them, but for actual usage, the tall rectangular ones are better. So anyway, we're going to go out to the table saw, which I have it set up outside because I didn't want to hook a hose to it for the dust collection. But we're going to rip down a bunch of cedar pickets at 1 1/4 inches, and then we're going to rip some down at 1 3/4 inches for the rectangular style. But let's go out and get this knocked out. We'll get in, we'll bang these out real quick. Going to go ahead and set you up right here. A little bit of a sun glare there. Hopefully that doesn't affect you too much. We're going to do the 1 3/4 ones first, then we'll rip down a couple at 1 1/4 inches. Okay, so now I'm going to pick these up, and then we're going to drop down and do the 1 1/4 inch ones. Underneath that plastic there to the left in your video, that is fresh cut cedar from yesterday. I sold all of it except for a little bit, so hopefully get a buyer for that so I don't have to sticker it and dry it out. So we'll see. I'm going to set these inside and I'll be right back. I'm actually going to grab one more cedar board while I'm in here. Go ahead and do 3 of them. Yes. Set us up here for 1 1/4 inches. Let's get this done. Now, if you heard a little bang noise, I did touch my push stick to the saw blade. Good thing it wasn't a finger. God dang, that would have hurt. So let's collect these 1¼ boards. Then we're going to go inside to the miter saw. Go ahead and get a bunch of these cut down to size. I'm going to turn the fans off. That way they don't interfere with the audio here. Although here in a second we will have the dust collection system on and running. And you're going to hear that. So I don't know if it's any different than hearing the fan or not. But we will find out. So what I'm doing right at the moment, I'm hooking the hose up for dust collection to the miter saw. Right now I'm currently switching hoses from saw to saw because I'm not 100% sure where everything's going to stay at. I'm waiting for this big laser machine to get here, and once we get here and get it all wired in and set and know for sure where it's going to be permanently, then I'm going to run PVC pipe and permanently hook a lot of these saws up to the dust collection. So let me bring you in from outside. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut all these cross pieces for this style, and then we're also going to cut 10, I believe 10 of them at 24 inches for the rectangular style. We're going to go ahead and get all this done and then just hammer these things out real quick. And something that I do with my rectangular ones, and if you build trellis you don't have to do this, but I just hate people struggling trying to get these things into the ground. So what I normally will do is cut some 45s across the ends of all these boards twice. So there's one side. And this isn't anything that I measure out. I'm simply just cutting a point on here just so that they're easier to go in the ground for the customers. So that's all I'm going to do for these for now. And these are for the rectangular ones. They're the 1 3/4 inch legs. Now on the fan style ones, those are all done out of the 1 1/4 boards that were cut, and each one of those uses 4 1 1/4 boards. So I'm going to go ahead and get 4 of these, and we'll also go ahead and cut points on the ends of these. And again, this is not a requirement if you're making trellis, but customers seem to like being able to actually get them in the ground. So you can see there, it's not much of a point, but it's enough to do it. So on this fan style trellis, you're going to need 5 pieces. You're going to need one at 5 inches, and then you're going to need one at 7 inches. You're going to need another one at 14 inches. And then I believe it's 19 inches. And then your last one will be at 24 inches. So you got one at 5, one at 7. So that's going to take you up to 12 inches. And then of course you're going to do 14, which takes you up to 26. 19 takes you to 45, and then 24, which takes you to 69. So you'll get all of your cross pieces for a fan style out of one of your 1¼ boards. So more or less, whenever you do a fan style trellis, what you can figure on is it takes you roughly 1.5 cedar pickets if you're using cedar pickets to do this. A lot of these that I make here recently, I'm just doing with cedar that I cut on the mill, because I get that for free aside from cutting it. So, you know, I can waste, what, $6 on a picket and a half. Well, it's not really a waste, but I could spend $6 on a picket and a half and have that overhead. Or when I'm cutting cedar, I can just cut, you know, some cedar down to 1.5 inches and just use it. I'm going to grab the other ones now. Now I need roughly 10 boards at 24 inches. And the reason I'm doing 10 is because I'm going to go ahead and do one fan style, because I already have one out there that's completed. And I'm going to do 2 of the rectangular ones so that I have extra, because I've sold one of each. And she wants one of each, so I'm going to have one of each left over, because the trellis always comes and goes in spurts, which is really weird, because you won't sell any of it for weeks, and then when it does sell, it's like everybody wants it. So I'm going to just go ahead and make an extra. So these are all marked at 2 foot, 24 inches. set these over here and I'll be right back. Okay, so let's move over here and do a little bit of assembly. Sit you right here. If you've never had one and you drink energy drinks, these Ghost America Pops, man, these things are awesome. I probably drink way too many of these. These are my absolute favorite energy drink right now. I also like the C4, I can't even remember what it is, pretty much the same thing, Ameripop, whatever. It's also got the red, white, and blue. But the Ghost one, man, that thing's a bomb. So, first off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get our fan style done first. So to do this one, these are going to sit on their sides. So when you do the rectangular ones, you're laying them flat. When you're doing the fan style ones, you're laying them on the side because you have to be able to bend these things. So I know everybody's got their preference on how they nail together anything to do with cedar pickets. Some people prefer nails, some people prefer staples. I, for one, do both. So down at the bottom of this, where it goes into the ground, I will be shooting staples and glue. And while I'm using this, drop in the comments, do you prefer one of these? I see like everybody and their brother that does woodworking using bottles similar to these. And I, for the life of me, don't know why. Because I think the glue is so much easier to use right out of these than it is to be squeezing on this thing all the time. Yes, these do get boogers on them if you don't clean them out. But at the beginning of each day, like, you know, if you take the booger off the top, you're good to go pretty much, you know, as long as you're using the thing. But what's your preference? I mean, do you prefer this style here, like the Glue Mate 450, or do you just prefer squeezing right out of the Type Bond bottle? Like I said, I prefer straight out of the bottle. And something else that's going to change. I always complain in the videos about how noisy my air compressor is. It is about 30 years old. And I keep saying, you know, I'm going to buy a new one. I'm going to buy a new one. I'm going to buy a new one. Let me tell you something. This is what happens when you get a mindset that, you know, you're going to do something. You kind of overlook the obvious. So I have this 30-year-old Craftsman beltless air compressor. It works great. Other than it's noisy as hell. So I'm always talking about I'm going to replace this because it's noisy, it's noisy, it's noisy. And then yesterday I was thinking, we also work on cabins. We got a business that does maintenance, repair, remodel work on cabins. And so we have tons of little air compressors that they use for that. But I have a big one down there underneath that table. It's been sitting in here for probably 6 months. The thing makes no noise. You could stand right next to that thing and be on the telephone, not even know it. So all this time I'm sitting here like, oh, I'm going to get me a new air compressor. I need to get a new air compressor. I've got one sitting right over there. So in the next few days, I've got to do a lot of cleaning in here because that big laser machine's coming in. We got to get wiring ran. We got to get a water line ran for the cooling system. A lot of other stuff. So while that's going on, that air compressor is going bye-bye. So anyway, I've got glue down here. I normally glue them up about 4 inches or so, and then I end up tacking them together for about maybe roughly 5 inches. So we should be good to go there. Now, like I said, you have 5 cross pieces. You got the 5, the 7, the 9, the 14, or I'm sorry, the 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 14, 19, 24. Woo! Completely lost my mind. 5, 9, 10, 14, 19, 24. Should be what it is. So anyway, I generally will start with the tallest one just to get that out of the way. So I'm going to put just a tad bit of glue on the 2 outside ones just to start with. And like I said, for me, it doesn't matter to me whether I use the screws or whether I use the nails. I really have no preference on one over the other. It's kind of whatever's handy. Right now I've got a bunch of those nails, so, or a bunch of the staples, so that is what I'm going to use. And again, I don't generally spend a whole lot of time on measuring these things out. I just kind of eyeball them as far as placement, because you can overthink all day long on stuff like this. But let me tell you, when the ladies come to pick these up, they're not going to get out there, tape measure, and be like, oh, this is 6 inches and that's 6 1/4. They really don't care. They just want their trellis. So once I have that in place, I will come back down here. When I lay this first 5-inch piece on here, I'm laying it so that it overhangs just a little bit so that I have to force these apart. So once I have it where I'm going to have it, I'm going to flip it to the left. You can flip it to the right. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to put some glue in that area. I'm going to put it back down. I'm going to move it so that it's in line with one side. And then from there, I'm going to stretch the boards out. And get everything lined up where I want it. So I'm going to do that all the way up. I did just realize that I messed up. I didn't cut the 10-inch piece. So I am going to have to go back and cut the 10-inch piece. But again, like I said, I'm going to put these to where they're just barely overhanging, just so I can create the tension that's needed. I'm going to grab another one of these. I'm going to run over here and I'm going to cut this at 10 inches. I do apologize for that. I kind of got ahead of myself. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking there's 5, but it's actually 6 runs that you're going to need. So anyway, I'm going to just start at one end, doing the same thing, put it where I want, add a dab of glue, going to put one side in place, push the other side out, and then the ones in the center. Now, I don't always do this, but at the end of this, I'm going to show you something that I've been doing lately on this fan style, which the customers seem to like. It adds about 2 to 3 minutes onto each build. Generally gets done with a piece of scrap wood. But we're going to add spikes to the sides of each side of the end, which will make it just a hair easier for your customer to secure these things into the ground. Okay, so now we have this. You could call this done right here if you wanted to, but we are going to add a spike onto the end of this. So I'm going to take a piece of my scraps. Here we go. I'm going to take this piece of scrap. This is about roughly inch and a quarter. I'm going to come over here to the miter saw. Let me take you guys with me. So I'm here at the miter saw. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut 2 pieces. No specific length. I'm just going to guesstimate. That looks good to me. And then again, we want to have a spiked end. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this to a 45. Going to flip it over and do the same thing again. So there, we have our 2 spiked ends. So let's go back over here, and we're going to attach these right here onto the end of this. And how we're going to do this is we want them to overhang maybe half of the overall distance from here. So, you know, let's just say this is 6 inches. We're going to shoot for 3 and 3 from the point of this here so that we're even. So let's go ahead and we're going to add our glue. We're going to hold it on there to where we want it. And we're just going to run out of staples. Never fails, right? So just so you know, these are 1-inch staples currently, or 1 1/4. No, these are 1-inch staples. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Make sure we're pretty similar. And like I said, you can use staples, you could use nails. I prefer the staples most of the time because they do hold this stuff together a lot better than the nails. I'm just double checking these here since we did run out of staples. I want to make sure that I didn't miss any. So we're good. So anyway, that completes the fan style. So now we'll move on and do the rectangular ones. And again, I'm going to knock out 2 of these real quick, but I'll probably stop the video after I get 1 of them done. So on these, these are going to be 24 inches wide. And again, we're going to be using the 1.25 inch boards that we ripped down. The 1.25 inch boards are used on both styles of trellises for the cross pieces. The only difference with these is I do pay a little more attention to where I'm putting stuff. And I'll show you why here in just a second. Let me get a tape measure. So on these, you only want to have a foot down there at the end of the spike to your first board. So we have 5 foot from the bottom of that first cross piece to the top of this one. So what you want to do after that is roughly every foot you want to have another cross member put in. So we're going to go at 12, 24, 36, and 48. So you'll end up with 6 total cross members, or 5, sorry, or 6. Never mind. So it'll end up with something like this. We're going to glue, staple, and then that's it. So we have our top one pretty much where we want it. Gonna measure across. Make sure we're pretty much centered on this. Again, I do measure this one. I do not measure the fan style one. So let me go ahead and put some glue here. Once you get the first one in place, you can just run down through the rest of them. And there's that noisy air compressor. Okay, so these are all in place. And that's all there is to it. So I'm going to knock out a couple of more of these real quick and the order will be complete for tomorrow. I do sell these for about $20 a piece. They're around 30 bucks for Cedar ones, like at Home Depot and Lowe's, so it's a good deal for the customer. Like I said, it's kind of hit and miss. You won't sell any of them for weeks at a time, and then all of a sudden everybody and their brother wants them. You'll sell a lot more rectangular ones than you will the fan style. People just buy the fan style pretty much for aesthetics. Have a good one.